It's January 29, Ukraine Media Center continues its operation. My name is Svetlana Shaparenko, and now we will be talking about this spring-winter in the middle of winter. And joining us in the studio is Nataliia Ptukha, spokesperson for the Ukrainian Hydrometeorological Center. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Greetings to all of our spectators. Well, the temperature outside looks like spring, 9 to 10 degrees above zero in Kyiv, and for what we see in the forecast, it will continue for a number of days. So where is this warm air coming from that brought spring in the middle of the winter? Well, really, the observations in many observation stations, they document the temperature at the level of +9, +14 degrees, and day by day every meteorological station keeps documenting temperature records for certain dates. For example, on the 28th or the 27th of January, the temperature, for example, in Ivano-Frankivsk observation station reached 14 degrees above zero, which is non-typical for winter. Well, the conditions were such that the air masses were coming to our latitudes from the south, and such a configuration of barrier formations above Europe resulted in this air mass incoming to Ukraine, and all of the processes were going on in the west of Ukraine. They had intense cyclones with snow, with rains. We have more stable situation, but thanks to the warm air from the south, we're having this warm temperature here that will stay here until the end of January. But within the last 2 days, on the 30th, on the 31st, the trend will be going in the direction of temperature reduction. The atmospheric front is coming to the eastern part of Ukraine, and the atmospheric masses are going to change, and we will get more air incoming, not from south. Well, it will be coming to south and southwestern part of Ukraine, but to other parts of Ukraine, the air will come from northwest, which will result in the fall of temperature and other synoptic processes respectively. So what will be the level of temperature that we should expect? Is it still going to be soft, or is it going to change drastically? Well, talking about generally, according to the forecast by our specialists from the Institute of Hydrometeorology, the average temperature in February will be between -3 +3, which is still 2 degrees above the climatic standard. But when it comes to the first 10 days, we expect the temperature to fall, to get to a temperature which is more characteristic for winter, and the temperature will fluctuate within the range of -3, -8 during the night, and during daytime the temperature will be around zero, sometimes falling a little bit below. So during the first week of February, so far we're not having official forecast due to the changing nature of atmosphere. We all know that we cannot give any forecast for such long periods because they are subject to change. But still, we're gonna keep track of the situation in case anything abnormal happens. We are gonna report respectively. On Friday, we will keep track of the situation to provide a forecast for the 3rd of February, because there may be frontal systems coming into play in southern, eastern, maybe northwestern regions that will result in wet snow due to the fall of the temperature. So it depends on the region, and based on that, we will be able to report in which region, which temperature and which climatic conditions should be expected, because the synoptic situation is going to be quite different. Another non-standard situation, usually when the temperature is growing in winter, it gets foggy, it gets cloudy, but this year the weather is clear, the sky is clear. Well, I wouldn't say so. The fogs are pretty intense in different regions, specifically during night hours and in the morning. In the majority of the regions, the weather remains cloudy, specifically in the northern regions. But when it comes to the west and south, yeah, the temperature could be clearer. The skies could be clearer there, but again, clouds is a parameter which is difficult to forecast, and in the majority of cases the clear skies are in the center of anticyclone. Now we're at its periphery, we're not at the central part of this high pressure field. The epicenter of this field is located to the southwest of Ukraine, and we're in such an intermediate barrack situations, and it may result in us experiencing different processes, such as different atmospheric phenomena, such as clouds and sometimes clear skies. So I think we're going to experience this spring temperature for a couple of more days. I'm saying spring temperatures because this is the temperature inherent in the beginning, say, of March somewhere. But again, the trend is going to the reduction. Well, you're saying there will be no extreme temperatures in February, so can the Ukrainians expect the early spring to come? Well, it's a little bit too early to talk about spring, with the view of such two soft months of winter. Probably the nature is going to look for its balance, but again, it's too early to talk about the advent of spring. We're still preparing to see any other weather conditions which are more characteristic to winter in the beginning of the spring. Well, this winter seems to me way more warm than the previous ones, but I would like to hear from you as from professional, what are the trends observed in Ukraine within the last years? Well, we've been emphasizing it the last couple of years that currently there is a trend to temperature growth. Previously it was only meteorologists who were noticing it, but now even the population continues observing this, and the last years turned out to be the warmest within the history of observations all around the globe, and respectively those trends are being preserved in Ukraine. We see the winter seasons are getting softer. It's good for our power grid. There are certain concerns on part of the agrarians, but this year there will be a positive contribution made by the weather because the winter period was quite dry. The agrarians made it so in all of the crops they were intended, but some of them were soon later, and given the fact that the last months of winter were pretty warm, those crops were able to develop. They're not hardened. The vegetation may renew under this high temperature, and subsequent frost may result in negative consequences. However, we don't expect any phenomena like this to happen shortly. Even in case of freezing temperatures, they're not going to be long-lasting, but the fact that the temperature indicators are growing, which results in warmer winters, and not only winters, but also we document the temperature records almost every year. In summer, we keep updating our social network pages. You can keep observing those temperature records in all of the observation stations, but when it comes to analytical research. Well, this is something that we should expect from the climatologists. To summarize it, thank you very much. Do we have any questions to a speaker on the floor? Just a second. You will be given the microphone. My name is Andriy, Agence France Presse, International Information Agency. I'm having the following question. We all remember an abnormal spring in March. Which year? It was the year 2013. Should we expect anything like this in spring? Because I'm having an impression that winter is moving towards the spring period. The winter is warm, but still the first snow is falling in spring. And I'm seeing this news online that the temperature is about to fall at around -16. Can you comment on these drastic fluctuations? Well, let's start with the first question. As I've mentioned earlier, today it's a little bit too early to forecast any such processes. Really, the March of the year 2013 was an abnormal process with a lot of snow all around Kyiv, all around the city of Kyiv. It was a record amount of snow, actually, so we cannot forecast anything like this. But again, we cannot safely state that anything like this would not happen, because now that the climate is changing, the long-term forecasts are very difficult to put together, because we cannot rely upon any statistic analysis, because the climate is changing and a lot of other factors are changing subsequently that influence the weather. But again, we cannot fully exclude such a possibility, because March is always a transitional month that during which we can experience both winter weather and spring weather. But again, the Ukrainian Hydrometeorological Center produces a 5-day forecast, and we can use those indicators for our life. Everything that you can see in Telegram channels, like about -16, well, we cannot say for sure that it's going to happen or it's not going to happen, but we see a trend that really in the beginning of February, the temperature is going to fall a little bit below zero. The temperature will be below zero in the night for sure, within this range -3, -8. Whether the temperature is going to fall even lower, we will be able to say like 3 to 5 days before the date. If it happens so that it's a night temperature and there is a high pressure field without clouds, obviously the temperature may fall even lower than -8, but again, we will be able to predict it like 3 to 5 days only. Just a second, and what about the fluctuations? What about those leaps of temperature? Well, when it comes to the leaps of temperature, look, today it's like +8 in Kyiv, and then you're saying 5th of February -16. It's a long time frame, because a temperature leap that can influence people should be happening within 1 day. When it's more than 10 degrees, it produces certain negative effect, but now the temperature reduction will be gradual. It's not like today we have +10 and tomorrow it's -10. No, it's not going to happen like this. We will be gradually getting back to the weather more inherent in winter. Thank you very much, Ms. Nataliia, and let me remind our spectators we were talking to Nataliia Ptukha, spokesperson for the Ukrainian Hydrometeorological Center, and Ukrainian Media Center will continue tomorrow. Thank you for staying tuned.